Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another video where I go over some 200 Russian cash and regular table play. In this video, I talk about the differences between Russian cash and regular tables and why you might want to mix reg tables in. I talk about some of the pitfalls in playing in games where people have fast fold charts available built into the software. I also discuss some pet peeves, some common things that people do incorrectly, things like not slow playing on monotone boards, things like not playing their hand in a vacuum against a weaker player, not playing exploitatively enough, trying to play all their strategy the same way against weaker players, and more. And we also go over a really weird preflop spot with pocket aces at a strange SPR where I think there's quite a lot of exploitative stuff to say. If you like the way we teach the game, you'll want to check out the beginner blueprint at Carrot Corner. It's free. It's 10 things you should fix first in your game after you watch this video, and all you've got to do is sign up to our newsletter. They'll also get you access to Pete's weekly Thursday email. Sent one out just yesterday. This is Friday, I'm recording this. So yeah, check that out at Carrot Corner after the video and enjoy this content. So I found these reg tables so far to be really soft. The rake is even worse than it is on Russian cash, but there are quite a few recreational players. Unfortunately, these ones here just have short stacks, so that's never going to add a ton of EV to your win rate. But I don't think people really understand win rates enough. Your win rate is a function of other people's loss rate, right? And then there's this rake tax, which on GG we know is pretty big. And in order to have a decent win rate after the rake tax has been paid, you need to have a really good pre-rake win rate, which means that other players at the table need to have a big loss rate, big enough that you still win something after rake. And a lot of that needs to be going to you through your accurate play. So when you have people playing nittily and badly, they're not going to be losing that much. A bad nitty player, 100 Russian cash, is probably going to be losing something in the vicinity of, I don't know, 6 BB per 100 or 7 or 8 or 10, depending how bad they are. When you have a 55 VPIP weaker player, though, they could be losing it 40 BB per 100. So it's kind of crude and it sounds a little bit predatory, perhaps. You can let me know what you think in the comments. But that's where your win rate comes from. So I would definitely recommend to all of you out there, if you are grinding for a living, you're grinding for to go semi-pro, or you're just trying to build a bankroll and you're really interested in making money, do try and play in games where you think there are players present who are losing at considerable loss rates. The clues for that are going to be volatile play, very wide starting ranges, big mistakes, really weak players basically. If you're playing in a game where you're better than all of the regs, you're probably not going to be winning at that much of a clip. And you've got the rake to beat. So just bear in mind, don't just play fast fold. I know I make a lot of content in fast fold formats because it's good for the viewing experience, it's good for streaming, etc. But, these reg tables are a better option in some ways. I think the games are softer. It's not to everyone's taste, but I've actually found a very good ratio for me is playing 2 tables of reg tables and 2 tables of Zoom. The reason that's been working for me and allowing me to focus a lot is that the Zoom tables basically give you a continuous flow. I'm always jamming here, by the way. I'm going to talk about why in just a second, why this is an important play to make. They give me a continuous flow of stuff to do, so I'm never bored, frustrated, wanting to click elsewhere, wanting to watch a video on YouTube. And the reg tables are probably higher EV, and also just they give you more intense bursts of hands. So sometimes you have quite a lot going on, sometimes you just have nice 2 tables. I find with 4 tables of Zoom, it does really engage me, but I'm just lacking the time to play my A game. I made quads on the bottom here, which is kind of funny. So the reason this is a shove pre is just that building another size of 4-bet here isn't really necessary. And it's just going to minimize what we make, actually. This early position 3x 3-bet of a 5x ISO with multiple short stacks behind is going to be a strong linear range. And I don't think people are going to find enough folds here if I jam. Why? Because one, it looks a lot like ace-king. People are just going to put you on ace-king. They're not going to fold queens, jacks, tens, usually. And secondly, I just think this is less scary looking than clicking it back. If I was actually bluffing here, and I don't think I would bluff this spot, but let's say I had a hand that's a semi-bluff, ace-king, that I want to fold with. Ideally, I want to fold. But, I'll run it if I have to. I might actually make it 34 here and make it look like I have aces. This sounds super 2004 exploit stuff that would have been on high stakes poker, but actually I think there's some merit to this. I think the shove looks weaker than making it 34 here. So if you really want the fold here, guys, Make it 42 or 38 or something silly. I think it's actually going to scare the hell out of regs a lot more than shove is here. Shove's going to get snapped by hands like 10s a lot. Just a very quick point on this one. There's a lot of action in the zoom tables here that were played below. We have like the zoom tables down here. We have the regular tables up here. So it's a few reg table hands to go over. Very quick point on this is that this is just not a defend that you have to make. There's a lot of confusion about this because when you watch like a vlogger or a streamer or whatever, it's always like, yeah, so there's no way we're folding 6-5 suited. It's like, yeah, well, you know, it's a very high rate game. The reg tables are worse, as I say. You can check that in Primed Up. They have a nice variance calculator comparison thingy. And 6-5 suited against small blind is just like break even. It's like break even at equilibrium. You can take it. Like if I have nothing going on at other tables and I think I have a skill edge, or I think the opponent's weaker, or more importantly, I know how they're weak and I have some kind of read, which is kind of rare. But if I do know that, if you guys play higher volume than me, you may have that read more often. You can take these calls. But when you don't have a direct route to exploitation against your opponent and your opponent's a reg, as this player appears to be here, there's just no need to take this spot. You can just fold, get more hands dealt at this table against the 75 VPEP. Look at this. This guy is probably losing at like 50 BB per 100 or something, or 35 or something like that. I don't know exactly, but it's highly likely this player is losing a lot. I don't know. I've not seen their loss rate, but like they're playing 75% of hands, right? So when you have a table like this, getting involved in this spot, as much as it's like good for the vlog and, you know, it's macho and you want to defend against the reg and you want to fight, like there's actually no reason why you have to make this call. You can roll it occasionally if you really want, or you can just fold and just get another hand dealt faster against these players, because that's where your win rate's coming from. So I just fold here. I just want to make that point because I think people feel compelled to make defends that are dicey defends, break-even defends in lower rate games that are probably just losing in this context. The GG defense ranges, you can find them on GTO Wizard. They're very, very tight. Like folding 75% to 3-bet, stuff like that. People are under-folding on GG, so you probably want to linearize your 3-bet ranges a lot from a lot of positions as well, and not 3-bet as much of the polar stuff, especially when you're out of position, like big blind versus button. Anyway, small point, wanted to point it out. This hand is about custom sizing. So here, it's a little awkward because we have this 73 big blind stack. I think we should still 3-bet. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this call. This guy has a massive VPIP still. He's playing a lot of hands. It is, okay, maybe call's okay, because like there's another weaker player in the blind here, and like we will get jammed on sometimes by hands that like, if he shoves 9s on us pre, or 10s on us pre, or jacks on us pre, that really sucks, right? Maybe call's okay here, but if this guy's like a little bit deeper, or I don't have this guy in the blinds, I think we should 3-bet. Maybe we should 3-bet anyway, but cold call is not a sin. There's no crime here. Another like pet peeve misconception I have about poker, maybe this video should just be about misconceptions and pet peeves, would be that people like get into this mindset where they say it's fishy to cold call, it's bad to cold call, you shouldn't do it, I'm going to simplify to never cold calling, and they're not actually analysing whether cold call could just be better against the opponent. I think this is a good cold call, but 3-bet's also okay. But if you changed a few factors here, like you made this guy have 50 big blinds, I'm definitely just cold calling now. I'm not reopening at 50 big blinds and incurring jam with this hand ever. It would be really bad. So filling bits flop here, raising and just playing for the 71 big blinds is not terrible. Because this is a dry board, my hand's pretty invincible, just allowing the opponent to like do some silly spewing here with what is probably a range that's way too wide pre and probably contains like ace deuce off is probably better, I think. Again, on the turn, I think I've got huge equity. Raising, getting it in feels okay, but I think call is better. Again, just using position on the river, having a skill edge there, getting some information about what he's got, allowing him to bluff ace-6. The thing is, out of position, he shouldn't be betting turn with ace-6 of diamonds probably, but like they might be. So given there's so much more air in their range here, just allowing them to spew it, I think is preferable. On the river, it's not the ideal card, but nevertheless, you know, solver's going to check here, but nevertheless, I think we should be betting for value. And this is about custom sizing, right? Another pet peeve is when people are like, well, I was only playing a B75 or a check against this absolute whale. No offense, you, sir, 888, but you do have a 56 VPIP. Might want to get that checked out. And it just doesn't make any sense because, like, you have a hand, your opponent has a range. It's the same sort of, like, line of thinking as I'm going to range bet against the recreational or range check against the recreational, it's highly likely that different hands in your range crave different things against a very unbalanced face-up strategy. This is the very unbalanced face-up strategy. Villain's going to have a lot of bad queen, 9x, 10x, just a way mergier range than normal. Could I go bigger than this? Maybe. But should I go b75? No, that's too big for this hand. Should I check because my only option that I've built in the prison of my own mind is b75? No. So don't lock yourself into rigid toolkit subsizing against recreational players. Build custom sizes. Just bet what you think your hand is worth. I bet this sizing. My opponent folds here, I think. It was only like 24 hours ago, I should probably remember. I think they fold. But yeah, the point is that this is probably much better than checking and also better than b75. Maybe there's a bigger sizing that's a bit better. I tend to randomly undersize stuff in game for some reason. I don't know why that is. You can give me your theories in the comments. This opponent, another pet peeve misconception, since we're busting misconceptions, is that you have to raise flushes here. This opponent actually impressed me in this hand because they did something that most people aren't capable of in these games, which is like actually making a correct slow play. I bet 1/5 pot, which is the minimum one big blind here with ace 10. We have a very easy turn check because we have a mediocre hand with showdown value and we can't value bet and we can't bluff. Guys, look, if you can't value bet and you can't bluff, don't bet. It's that simple. Like, I'm so sick of like people betting for reasons that are just invented. Like, I'm gonna rep a club. I'm gonna, like, there's so many reasons you can make up, right? But none of them are very good other than value betting and bluffing. So that's what you should be caring about. This player slow played the queen high flush on the flop, which is actually quite good because what monotone boards do is they polarize ranges, right? So if he raises, it's not that he can't raise for value, like he can, but it's merely optional. It's not like having a set on a dry board where you have this monster hand that just needs to play for stacks and you unblock the range the bet calls. Here you block a lot of the calling range. You unblock a lot of the offsuit cards that bluff later, and there are quite a lot of those in theory that bluff the turn. And if you do raise and pile all of your stack into the middle, you'll be doing all right, but you will be running into the king high flush at some frequency, and your hand is not anywhere near as good as a set would be on a rainbow board. I don't think people make the connection that this is a much worse hand than a set on a rainbow board. So slow playing the flop here is a good idea. Most opponents that you guys will face do not do this at 2-5 live, at 25 NL online, 50 NL online, whatever. Even this game, most people do not do this. So you can triple here with impunity when you have air. We don't have air, but when you have like king 6, you can just go bomb, bomb, bomb against most humans because they're just super capped here and overfolding to triple barrel. But when you come across a player like this, you might want to mark them, tag them as someone who's a bit trickier, trappier, maybe knows what's going on a bit more in theory. So this impressed me because it's rare and it's actually theoretically fine to call this hand at some frequency. King high flush is going to raise more often because it's actually a much better hand than the queen high flush by the time you've put your whole stack in. People treat those hands like they're the same and just go, oh, it's a cooler when they lose, and it might be, but there's a big difference between king 5 and queen 5 of clubs here. Oh, by the way, villain's river check here is probably also completely fine because we are reopening with many worse hands for value. Like, we can be betting bad flushes here all day. Okay, he does block one of them, and we can also just be bluffing. Now, you might say that he should block or something in this spot, but actually this is going to be really overfolded in pool to all sizes. Like, whatever size he picks here, the pool is going to overfold this line because they're just going to fold a ton. They're meant to fold a ton, right? Because they check back the turn and this guy called flop, but they're going to fold even more than that. And actually just letting villain, i.e. me, bluff here is probably a better idea than leading this river. Because what's going to happen at these games is that the average reg is going to have too much air in their range here. They won't be calling bluff catchers enough on river, like non-club bluff catchers enough on river. So they're overfolding, but probably over bluffing if checked to. So actually checking this hand is a no-brainer. The way villain played this hand is really, really good. And you might look at this and think, oh, it's too passive, he missed value, blah, blah, blah. But actually his play is good in this hand when you break it down theoretically and exploitatively against the pool. Okay, that's the end of the reg table hands from this like half-hour session. Let's move to some of the Zoom hands now. Or the Russian cash hands, as I guess they're called on GG. Another thing that you should note about like the dilemma of whether to play Russian cash or reg tables is that this little thing down here, this little square hand chart thing, editor, can you highlight that grey thing with the squares on it that I'm putting my cursor over? That gives recreational players who would normally have 45 VPIPs and would normally open Jack 8 suited in the hijack, or sorry, Jack 8 offsuit in the hijack or something. It gives them an out. It reduces their loss rate because it allows them to play better. So you could see a recreational player using a preflop chart that's built into GG software here, losing at a third of the loss rate of one who isn't using that. So again, that's the difference between VPIP and loss rates. Now, that's horrible for you when you're playing Russian cash. Like, there's a lot of data on this game that basically says that very, very few people are winning organically. That's to say, like, before rakeback bonuses, bad beat jackpots, etc. And if you're not grinding leaderboards, then, you know, it is possible to win at 200 Russian cash. I know a couple of people who do. Not personally, but I know of them. A couple of professional poker players, grinders that put in high volume and have proven that they can win at 3 or 4 BB per 100 in this game. It can be done, but I think game selecting, reg tables, etc. is a much cleaner route because you can be against recreational players with 55 VPIPs and you could be winning way, way, way more in that game than you can in these games. So from a brute force, like, you know, maximizing your hourly, BB per 100, pre-rake back money, you definitely want to be playing in different games. This hand is like very dicey even against min, honestly. This is like not a huge fan. So on the turn here, we can check raise or we can bet. And I think against a decent player, you should probably mix this. I decide to check this time. And on the river, not only do we have like some of our slow plays still, that you might think our range is capped on this node, it really shouldn't be. We should still have Queen Jack, we should still have pocket sixes, we should still have quad fours, we should still have some boat like Queen four suited maybe, we can still have just King Queen, and we can have flushes. So on this river we have flushes, we have some boats, and we have some trips. When we're building a sizing here, I don't know if what I did is even defensible. Like, sometimes I look at my play later and I'm like, do I like this at all? I almost went for like small overbet, and then I was like, okay, let me just mix in some bigger sizes here as well. And I went for like the giant overbet. But to do this without the king or ace of clubs, it's probably not very good. Because this is like 4x pot, it's like 3.5x pot. This needs like 78% fold equity. It's probably going to get this. I think this is going to be plus EV. I think this is going to start to get a bunch of folds from Jack X, maybe even Queen X sometimes. We do have quite a lot of value in this spot, but it could well be, you guys can let me know, but it could well be that we actually need a more premium club hand, because villain does, from under the gun, check back the turn with some ace-x of clubs, like the bigger ones generally, right? Like ace-10 of clubs, ace-king of clubs, some frequency, stuff like that. So I don't really know that I love this play. I think this hand fits better into a smaller overbet that we could make with a bad flush or a 4. This is the kind of overbet where we're saying we have a boat or a nut flush or something, so maybe our blockers need to be a bit more pristine, would be my guess, but you can let me know if you look this one up. It does get through on this occasion, but yeah, 78% fold equity. I do think we're getting that. I do think it's a winning play. I don't know if it's the best sizing for this hand, though. It could be that if we go 1.5x pot, where we only need 60%, we might be exceeding the 60% target more than we're exceeding the 78% target, and therefore it's more bang for your buck. I talked about this in Pete's Weekly. If you're not subscribed to Pete's Weekly Thursday strategy email, why not? It's free, directly to your inbox, every Thursday, without fail. I've done 12 in a row. I don't miss them, guys. I'm not one of these, like, half-assed people that, like, says I'm going to do some content and then just doesn't. Generally speaking, when I get, like, I commit to, like, a weekly email or, like, the Friday Hand of the Week show, when it comes to content, I like to do it long-term, without fail. So you will get that email every week this year. Every week. Like, no doubt. Probably next year as well. To sign up, you go to carrotcorner.com, go to the form at the bottom of the page and fill in your email address. That's all you got to do. You'll also get access to the free beginner blueprint, 10 things you should fix first video for beginner to intermediate sort of players. Check out Carrot Corner. Yeah, get on there, man. I want to hear from you guys right back. Let me know what you think of it. Okay, let's find another spot. Okay, so let's continue in the same vein as before with required fold equity targets and whether bluffing is plus EV. This was what the last email was about. It was about like when to turn showdown value into a bluff, but this is actually more about just whether to bluff with 0 showdown value or not. Multi-way pot with the pre-flop raiser here. It goes, no, we're not. With a pre-flop caller here. Yeah, under the gun must have, or did we ISO? Yeah, under the gun opened. We cold called. Weaker player in the blind. See, when reg opens, you have weaker player in the blind. I don't know that this is a reg, but if it was, and there's a weaker player in the blind, I prefer to call these hands rather than 3-bet them. It just makes sense, right? You just have an EV gain on this node, but you don't have an EV gain relative to equilibrium on the node where you 3-bet. Anyway, it goes check here. Twice. And this is kind of like a red flag to a bull as far as I'm concerned. This player is grossly capped compared to what they should be here. The amount of the time we should get check raised in theory, compared with the amount of the time we do get check raised on this queen, is tiny. This player's meant to be slow playing this queen, and this player likes this card, so they bet a lot, or we bet a lot, and then they check raise. Most of this player's sets are probably meant to check raise this turn, but they're not going to. They're just going to lead for 2/3 pot, or whatever it is people do, or for pot, or whatever. So he probably has no sets, no straights. This player is not going to be checking ace queen very often, or king queen with a weaker player in the hand. So this is just like exploitative, you know, just lap up all of the milk in the bowl kind of stuff. I fed my cats just before I started recording, so I'm picturing cats eating or drinking out of bowls right now. Weird analogy, but you know, it's kind of there for the taking this pot. I really do think that stabbing turn is good. We get called in 2 spots, which is really unusual. Both players quickly check the river. This is very simple. Like, methodically, the method here is simple. You need to figure out, is there a sizing that I get more fold equity for? Presumably, if we check, we always lose, right? So we're just trying to beat 0 EV here with our line. And the question becomes, well, what sizes can we do that? Like, if we go half pot, do we get 33% fold equity total, which would require each player to fold? Well, if they both fold 60% of the time, that's 36%. So that would be enough, right? So 50-something% of the time. I think each player is folding about over 60% of the time here. So I think half pot's probably winning. I don't think pot's good, because this is a polarizing card where like sometimes they just randomly have 2-pair or a flush. So I definitely think that when we bluff here, we need to keep our bet smaller, because we will easily make like queen 10 or 7x or pocket 8s or something fold on this node with a small bet. I think this is actually too big. Contrary to what I said before, where I usually undercook my sizes, I think I've overcooked this one. Well, what I do is actually I go too big for a bluff and too small for value a lot of the time. I think that's what I do. That's like my main in-game leak for some reason. I think I could go 9 here and have similar results, and they are uncapped. They are polarized by this card. They're folding a huge block of hands without really considering sizing, and then calling another huge block without really considering sizing. So this is too big, but I like the bluff. I do think it gets through often enough. And I don't really care what like a 3-way solver would think of my play. It would probably hate it. I don't care, because like it's a completely different landscape to a 3-way solver. Very unbalanced spot. This is just something you should be doing. You should be check raising this board quite a lot, because you have a lot of 6x. You can check raise king, queen, king, jack as well and build around there. If you're not using a hand like 9-7 of hearts, you're not really bluffing, right? Because you don't actually have very many high equity bluffs here. You don't have flush draws or straight draws. You have to dig from somewhere. The reason I went 7.2 is that villain went tiny. I'm sizing in relation to the pot here, not in terms of X their bet. So you might think 7x is huge. It's actually not huge. The way to understand sizing here, I know a lot of you know this, but some of you don't, is to take the 1.1 that you'd be calling, put it into the pot with his 1.1, so pot's going to become, what, 6.7? And then you're making it like another 6.1 to villain, so you're actually going under pot here, even though it looks huge. And you'd want to go pretty big in this spot anyway, because a lot of your raising range is 6x and the pot's small. So it makes sense, right? Another little pointer. This is a 3-bet pot against the reg. You can go small or big here, actually. Like B75 is okay here. B33 is okay, as long as you're just betting all the time. This is one of the best boards possible for the button 3-bet range, because hijack makes no sets at all as the preflop caller of the 3-bet on this board. Doesn't really have 4s or 3s. Maybe sometimes has 4s, but... And then on double flush draw, just sizing up towards pot. We're also a bit deeper here as well. I think this is a pure bet on double flush draw when you have king queen. I think it's just a big enough hand. King queen on a king high board is a lot better than king queen on a queen high board. Can anyone tell me why? That's right. The reason is that you don't deserve to play the game. No, I'm just kidding. The reason is that they have ace queen a lot, but not ace king a lot in this situation. Although some of them do have ace king here as well. Maybe that's not true. Maybe they actually have ace king off and not ace queen off. But no, they probably have more ace queen than ace king. It's truer in late position, right? Where they don't have ace king. But anyway, just a useful pattern. Double flush draw. You want to go bigger, because they have more medium strength hands that you're denying equity to, is what it comes down to. So this is a hand against the reg. You can't read this. I actually can read it. I can clearly see it. I have good eyesight, but nice try trying to tilt me. You want to define your flop strategy against a decent reg, and that's what I do. I'm playing a big bet or check, and I'm usually betting this hand, but I'm not always betting this hand. It doesn't really matter, but I like to have a little bit of unpredictability. Like if the turn comes in 9, I don't like to have no jack 8 in my range against a good player, especially given that betting flop isn't likely to be clearly better than checking it. Maybe one player is slightly better, I don't know which, you know. This is the kind of spot where I don't mind RNGing. Similar on turn, we can bet very often here. We can use block and we can use like a B75 on this card. We shouldn't really overbet this card in this line, I don't think. And then, yeah, we're just checking down now that we've hit top pair on the river. But yeah, interesting spot in the sense that you need to bluff at some point here if you don't hit the river, but you can bluff at any point in the hand against a solid player. Bluffing flop and bluffing turn, bluffing river, they're all kind of similar. Against a fish that's leading turn way too often, you just want to bluff the flop with the gutter. Or you want to check back and raise the turn, but you don't want to like check back and fold the turn against the fish. But regs are a bit more behaved. They understand turn probing a bit more. Especially the European regs tend to be a bit better, generally, demographically speaking. Okay, so we have ace-8 offsuit, kind of reluctant to defend in the big blind here against min. We can fold this against 2.5 in this rate structure for sure. 9-7-6, we can play a bit of donk on this board against cutoff. The earlier the position and the lower these medium cards are, the more donk we can play, because the bigger our sort of asymmetry around the nuts would be. We have more unique combos with the nuts the villain doesn't have if he's earlier position. I decided to probably usually call this combo. I think raising occasionally with his hand's okay though. It's okay. I think with the ace we block a lot less of the... We unblock more of like the bluffs that are bet folding, because ace-x is checking back this flop a lot. We also block like ace-9. I think it's a reasonable combo actually. I think the ace is a reasonable blocker. On the turn, I figured this is great for my range. Like really, really, really good. I have 10x galore, 5x galore. I think I could have sized down. Yeah, I did. I sized down to this sizing. This way I can still bet sets and 10x and maybe some 5x. Though I'm not sure about the 5x. Sets are improvable, which is why they bet here a lot. And then on the river, I thought, you know what? This is a bluff in GTO, probably. Because I have no showdown value now. And I block ace-10 and ace-5, which are the most likely 10x and 5x to exist offsuit. So this looks like a very good bluff combo. However, I just believe this spot is underfolded. I just think people have a straight already the vast majority of the time here. They're going to 3-bet a lot of their sets on the flop. I think they just have a 10 or a 5 here, and I don't think they're folding enough. I think this is like throwing good money after bad. I think this is like spew in real life to bet this river. This is an exploitative non-bluff spot, as far as I'm concerned. I think it does really badly. Villain does check back with a 5. Maybe they're folding a 5, but they have more 10 than 5 combinatorically. And it just sucks that I can identify all of these GTO factors that make this hand a good bluff, and then okay, it doesn't suck, it's great. Then I can say, but still I'm not going to bluff because I think this is exploitatively bad. I think that's a really core skill, is knowing when to give up exploitatively. When does GTO say, go for it, but we actually just want to say no? Alright guys, that's all I've got for you today. A quick reminder that our back to school bundle is still live at Carrot Corner. If you're looking to get started with grade 1 of the Carrot Poker School, you can check out carrotcorner.com. You'll get a free cash injection exploit course for September only, but only if you select the back to school bundle. From the website, we'll be back with more content soon. Please, please, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so you can see Pete's, not Pete's Weekly, that's the email, so you can watch the hand of the week every Friday. It's like an 8 or 9 minute video analysing one hand in a solver. It's helping my game a lot. I hope it'll help your game a lot. Do check out every Friday. The algorithm doesn't like stuff that's like episode 1, episode 2. It wants every title to be like every thumbnail to be like, you gotta hate it, right? But because hand of the week is more of a, here's a hand every week, get your poker diet, it's episodes, it's sequential. YouTube's like, nah, not if I like this. No one's doing any exasperated, shocked, harrowed faces. Harrowed, is that a word? If something's harrowing, are you harrowed? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, YouTube loves that shit. Anyway, I'm rambling, but please, please check out Hand of the Week. I want it to grow. I want the playlist to get a lot of traction. Share it with your friends. Share this video with your friends. Check out Carrot Corner. See you next time.